This is Wellness Buds, and I'm your host, Stella Wingfield.
And I'm Laura.
This week's episode is inspired by the following quote. Life is not about waiting for the storms to pass, it's about learning how to dance in the rain. Vivian Green. I think this is a great way to start today's episode because even though last week wasn't a storm per se, I guess maybe Laura might think of that differently.
Oh my God.
I think you did actually have a storm.
I'm telling you, I went out of town for Christmas and my life has been at 10,000 miles per hour. And I am just trying to keep my eyes open at this point.
Well, they're open now, so success for today. But yeah, I just like this quote because sometimes you have to roll with the punches. Things happen. Sometimes you need to adjust, rework the plan, or dance in it or with it and make it work. It's just life. Shit happens all the damn time. But I think what's important is how you move forward once things go unexpectedly. And even if you are expecting the storm, it's important to work with it instead of against it. I also wanted to mention how last week I talked about the impact of being kind to others, how it impacts your mental health and positively impacts those who you are kind to. Unbeknownst to me, this past Monday was actually National Compliment Day, so it's just hilarious to me, the timing of everything. And I went a bit above and beyond my normal kindness with complimenting people. Usually I just think compliments in my head and don't say them aloud. So this week I was saying it aloud and it was super gratifying, as we know it to be. It made a couple people's days for sure, and it felt really good to make people smile with things that I was already thinking anyway. So I don't really have a huge story to tell about my experience other than when I think the compliments, I'm just going to share those thoughts more since I know it makes people feel good, and it makes me feel good to make others feel good. So,
yes.
And along those lines, do you follow the Happy Snapshot, Laura?
There is only one way to find out.
Well, if you don't, you definitely need to hit that follow because it's just a total feel-good account on Instagram, and they sometimes share these videos of whoever's behind the camera giving compliments to strangers. Yes. And it's just so heartwarming. I love it. That's kind of how I felt this week when I was giving people compliments, that I'm like, I just feel like I'm being these people in the video and spreading joy, and I don't know.
Okay, did you get all positive reactions?
Yeah.
Okay, because in my brain, I see those videos and it's so heartwarming. I love it. I feel like if I was on the street and someone yelled at me from a car, I'd be like, who the F are you?
Yeah, I feel like when I'm walking, I'm usually wearing headphones, so I don't know if I would... If someone was yelling, I might not even hear it. But...
Yeah, but I mean, maybe I need to work on my compliment taking.
Yeah, I don't know. That is a good point.
Yeah, I'm like, I think I'd be a psychopath and be like, who are you?
But they're like, I love you, and then whoever they're complimenting or whatever, the stranger's like, I love you too, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah, mine would be the bird.
All right. Well, I guess we can just move right into our prompts for the week. The first one is, remember a time in your childhood when you felt special and loved. This could be at home, school, church, wherever. What happened to evoke these positive feelings? Where were you? Who were you with? I think since I went first last time, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Let me pull mine back up. I got distracted by happy things.
The best distraction.
Oh, okay. So this one took me a really long time to honestly think of anything, just because one, I was like, this is sad on my part, but
Aww.
Also more not sad that it didn't happen. I had a spoiled childhood. I don't think it was a bad one. And I was like, oh, I'm just over here being like, that's norm. I just couldn't appreciate it the same. But I think probably this is how I described it, because I always joke that this is why I'm such a crier in general. But I either I'm not crying or I'm crying.
There's no in between.
Yes. And I think my mom, whenever I was younger and upset, my mom was always like just cry it out. And she'd like tell you to cry it out, scratch your back, be with you, you know. It was that she just made you feel better about being so upset. But now I cry it out and I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem. I'm 26 and I look like a freak in public while crying it out.
And where's that back rub when you need it?
Yes. But it is like very soothing. And, you know, to have someone that wants to be there and not be like, go learn to self-soothe. So that's like not a bad thing. Maybe I could have used a balance, but...
No, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Your mom.
That's like, that was Sheila's thing. I'm also sure she did so much more, but I like really remember that coping mechanism when like I was upset. I've always been a crier. Always couldn't control the crying, so
same, still can't.
I think I often needed it.
Just gotta let it out.
Yes, so cry it out.
I also feel like the sad moments always stand out more, you know?
Yeah. So that's where I was like, okay, I can really remember this, and it did make me just feel like it was okay to have my feelings. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking that as my positive.
Yeah.
Also, like, my childhood, I feel like, just has freaking little blips. Is that just a sign of getting old?
Like forgetting?
Yeah. I, like, need to make a Google Doc of, like, bullet points at least of stories I remember, I feel like, or something.
Well, this is kind of nice because then we're revisiting memory lane with some of these prompts to help stir the memory and make you think about things that you usually don't.
I know. Like, oh my god, my childhood memory that, like, you don't remember, but your parents have told you.
Oh, yeah. I am excited for that one. We'll get there, y'all. Okay. So, for mine, I have one, like, it just came to me as soon as I saw the prompt. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to write about. So, one memory that stands out for me was when I was in first grade. I lived in Reading, PA, which if you don't know about Reading, congrats to you. It's not great. This memory is about my last day in the Reading School District, which is a great thing in itself. But anyhow, it was a day like any other in first grade, other than it was my last day. I was a student who liked to raise my hand and volunteer for things. So when my teacher asked if I could go run an errand, which involved taking an envelope to another teacher, I eagerly raised my hand to do so. When I got back to the classroom, the light was off, and I remember being so confused. I remember thinking, is this my classroom? I could have sworn that I was just in this classroom with my peers and my teacher. Why are the lights off? Where is everyone? I stood outside of the classroom for a minute, just confused about what to do, because I'm like, is this where I need to be? I'm just so confused. And I doubted myself and my memory of the classroom. So I very slowly and apprehensively opened the door, and surprise! I experienced my first ever surprise party. I guess my teacher and classmates knew it was my last day. They knew I was moving. So, and I guess they knew I would volunteer to run the errand. So they strategically planned this going away party for me. There was a super cute stuffed bear that was white and had this plaid fabric over the paws. I feel like it was winter, so it's kind of like a wintry bear. And that was on my desk with a card from everyone that I kept for so long. Like, I kept that stuffed bear until high school for sure.
Aww.
But it was my last day, and my teacher and classmates just made me feel really loved and special. And then I remember holding the door for everyone as we left for the day. And each one of my classmates gave me a hug on their way out of the door. And my teacher did too. It was just like one of my earliest and most vivid memories. I felt seen and comforted before the scary move. It made for a very memorable last day. So thank you to all the kind kids out there and my teacher, who I wish I could remember her name.
That's
I can't,
adorable.
But yeah, it was so sweet. I'm like, what a memory.
That is such a good one.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget it.
Oh my god.
Cute. All right, next one. So, like, opposite from, like, a feel-good story to write a poem about somebody who wronged you.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a poem, but I will get there. I feel like I just got really in my feels. And, like, poems are hard.
Poems are hard. This one was so hard for me, Laura, because
Yeah.
I feel like when I was younger and angstier, maybe I could have, like, made an angrier poem or something.
Yes.
But I just feel like I have let go of a lot of things, even though it isn't like people who wronged me, like, it's not like it doesn't upset me to think about that they should have treated me better or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also just, like, so far removed from it that I'm just like, whatever.
I can tell
like,
y'all
they did that, but
where my thought process all went, because then it just got like, I was like, I need a moment from this in itself, because the obvious choice of being wronged is I went through like a breakup like 8 months ago. I don't know. Somewhere in that ballpark of 6 to 8 months ago. And it was messy. And it was a lot. It was just a lot. And that would have been the obvious one. But like the reality is like a while ago, I wrote this really big email. I pulled an Oprah. I wrote a letter and I didn't send it. And I like really did kind of let go of a lot in that process. So maybe that letter is like my poem in that situation.
yeah, that was your cathartic.
It was just not very
experience.
poetic. It was like pretty bitter, I'll be honest.
I don't know. I read the letter,
yeah.
and I didn't think it came across as bitter. It was just like, this is what happened. This is how you wronged me, and
yes,
this is how it made me feel.
And in this week of write a poem, I get an email from my ex trying to apologize and take ownership. And I am choosing to appreciate the effort while it is a weak one and not really enough for me to feel it enough. It's hard.
Yeah.
There was a statement of I want to take ownership and then zero statement of anything that they were trying to take ownership of, which is like the reverse of my letter. My letter was long because I like named the things that hurt me.
Right. Versus like, here's a couple sentences.
Yeah, like I felt pretty glossed.
Yeah.
But I get this email and I'm like, okay. One, I was already feeling like not as bitter as I thought I was. And two, like, if that's all they can take ownership of, that's like not my cross to bear, if that makes sense. I kind of realized.
If they can't dive deep, then it's like, that's on them.
Yeah. And so then I was like, I don't want to write the poem about this because I don't actually feel as bitter as I honestly, because I was like, we're writing this poem. I know what I'm going to write about. Like I was locked and loaded and I just like couldn't do it. So then the really only other thing I can think, wronged is just a bad word. And I had a rough relationship with my dad. It's not really secret, you know. My dad has passed away. Sunday was actually his life day. And that was the other thing. So then I get to this and I'm like, oh, it's like right at the anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
And so I will get a poem and we can make like a little bonus episode of my poem of Laura being a raw ass motherfucker because
yeah, honestly, like my poem, and I'll share it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be in our Patreon bonus material. If you want to subscribe to that, cool. Because I just don't really feel as comfortable sharing it with anyone and everyone who could listen.
Okay, that makes me feel so much better because I feel like so much of my hesitation to be like, I just don't have a poem was scared of being raw. But that's like when you should be. It's like the point.
I mean, I'm going to be raw with you.
I know. I couldn't even get raw with myself.
Yeah, well, mine, it was more just like a very generalized poem. Not like about anyone very specifically, but like a collective wronged, if that makes sense. So, if you're done sharing what you are sharing
my
about
poem
this,
will appear in a bonus episode somewhere.
In a bonus private episode that you have to pay $5 to listen
to.
If
you want to see my deep, dark secrets.
Yeah. It took like a lot. I have so many like rough drafts of just like posing questions of just general collective wronged as like a society and how men treat women kind of thing.
Yeah. That went very well though. I liked that.
It is what it is. Bonus episode.
Yes. Mine also got to like when I was trying, it wasn't a rhyme kind of poem and I was like, what am I doing here?
But it didn't have to be. I just find
I just don't know how else to poem.
A haiku.
Oh, I know. I know there are ways. I just struggle at any other way.
Yeah, same. Because I'm like, it just helps me, I don't know, center the wording around the rhyme scheme.
Exactly.
All right, on to the next prompt. What 3 or more things would you share with your teenage or younger self? And what 3 things or more questions would you like to ask your future self?
Okay, should we both share our 3 young things and then our 3 questions?
Sure.
Okay. For my younger self, I need to get... It's like hard to be like, get over yourself because it was like so big in that moment. And I hear this from my mom and my aunt too. Like, stop stressing your body because we are so critical of our bodies at literally every form. So then my aunt and my mom were talking about, they're like, when you look back, you see these photos and you're like, that's literally like, I looked amazing and I hated myself at that time. And like, you miss when you actually are at your best. And I was so self-conscious in high school about my body. Growing up in a beach town, it was a rough game. I like only wore bathing suits that had short bottoms because I just had the butt game already going and like no one else did because it was like a beach town and everyone was like a rail and
that was before the booty was like in.
That was before the booty movement. I really remember like being terrified of wearing bathing suits. Butts, I was so self-conscious of my butt and I just wore shorts. I think I like really wore my first not shorts like my senior year.
Dang.
Yeah, I was very self-conscious of it. Because I always had like a very athletic build. And I got stretch marks on the insides of my thighs when I was in high school. Honestly,
Same.
like freshman year. Maybe even middle school because I was doing dance.
Yeah, I got so many stretch marks in high school too. I was so self-conscious.
But yeah, not more of like my stop torturing yourself. Maybe I shouldn't say stop stressing your body. Just like it isn't as bad as you want to make it out to be.
Yeah, and it is what it is, and we're human. Like, it's pretty natural to have stretch marks.
Yeah, I think I do a lot better at just appreciating now. I mean, I definitely have the things that I'm like, I wish that was different, but I can still appreciate what I got.
Yeah, and not looking at yourself so critically.
Yes. Also to my younger self, I probably should have said this to my 6 month ago self. Let the boy go.
Oh.
Let the boy go. I had like my first ever love breakup and I just did not take it well in high school. He just real shattered my heart and I kept wanting to be like, just stay, we'll fix it because I feel so strongly. And I should have just let him go because my senior year boyfriend is probably not going to be my husband. Not married yet, so you know. Anything can happen, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah, and your teenage self would maybe not have believed you.
Yes.
Know? In high school, you're like, this is forever.
Exactly. Let the boy go. I think most teenage girls need that. The first one is like so hard. And he was telling me he wanted to go. I needed to let it go.
Yeah. It's so hard for anyone in any relationship. And I say this all the time, like, you don't know what's going on in that relationship, and it's so easy from the outside to be like, just move on. But when you have such feelings, it just clouds your judgment. And sometimes you need to, like, take a step back and look at it more objectively.
Yes.
To realize, like, this ain't it.
Yeah, exactly. And then my third one is kind of jokey, but also I stand by it. Stop using blue eyeshadow. Y'all, I went to school. My mom let me out of the house, but I also went to school for like an entire year with blue eyeshadow.
Was it at least sparkly?
It was. So not only was it blue, I made sure it drew attention. But I like was just thinking about it, and I always think about the blue eyeshadow face.
Well, I remember too growing up and parents being like, you're going to look back at these pictures and wish you wouldn't have worn your hair all in your face like that. And it's like, you know, true now, but back then I just didn't see it like that.
Oh, yeah. I know. I had to put that one in because I was like, we all have the thing that we're just like, why'd you do that?
Yeah. All right. So mine, I would tell younger me, 1, the only expectations you need to live up to are your own. And I feel like that coincides with your, like, body stuff, because that's kind of in the realm that I was going to. But in the broad scheme of things, too, what other people expect of you, that shouldn't matter. You should expect greatness from yourself because you want to do whatever, not because everyone else wants you to do whatever. But then also, too, like, you know, we have so much media shoved down our throats, and the comparison game, as we've talked about, like, I was such that person of, why don't I look like that? Your only expectations need to be like, are you better than yesterday? And are you working on being a healthy version of yourself and whatever? So, not being so critical on yourself, too. But, yeah, generally, live up to your own damn expectations. 2, drinking to drown out your insecurities only makes it worse. This is coming from older you, so trust me / you on this.
When you know your younger self wouldn't listen, so that you put in a justification.
Yeah, younger me wouldn't have, because I feel like, oh God, I hated to think that any adult knew better than me, obviously. I was 15, 16, 17. I obviously knew everything, you know? Bitch, you didn't know everything, even though you think you did. So, yeah, that is just one thing that I really wish that I would have not gone so hard on, because drinking also makes you make decisions that your sober self wouldn't have made. So when I look back on a lot of things, and it's like, obviously I can't change it, but if I could have just told myself, like, hey, drinking is just gonna make it worse, yo. And 3, surround yourself with those who uplift you, not bring you down or make you question yourself, because I definitely had people in my life that made me question myself instead of uplifting me. So who you surround yourself with matters.
Yes. I have to preach this to teenage employees all of the time. Because they hang out with people and I'm like, I know you. I know that kid. The hell are you doing?
Right. And it's like when you say, like, they're not a good influence, like, people really aren't sometimes.
I have actually chosen, I don't say they're not a good influence. I just tell them, you can think that the people you hang out with don't impact you, but they do. Don't fall into the wrong path.
Oh my gosh, that's like such an adult advice thing to say.
Yeah, and then over here I'm like a psychopath for my own problems.
I mean, everyone has their problems, but
that's the main question I want to ask my future self is, do we ever stop stressing? Because I stress the dumbest shit. Okay? I stress shit that just has to happen. And it's like, it literally has to happen. So I need to stop. So when do I actually, I know this. When do I get to that part? Future self.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Yes.
It's a matter of time, though, for sure.
And then also, I think for my future self, because it's like hard to think what you'd ask your future self.
I know.
Because I'm trying not to define her too much before I know her.
Exactly.
So I was like, when do I stop stressing? And then I really know I want to be a parent. And so I was like, do we fuck them up? Because I know what I'm like scared of with being a parent. And it's not that I think I can't do it. Just like the whole complex of like parents are human beings. So parents are gonna fuck up. No matter what I do, I am going to fuck up my kid in some way. Parents don't know what they do that really impacts you until it happens, you know? And my question was kind of like, which part fucks them up?
And I feel like they don't know what part fucked them up until like way later when you're like, I remember this time when you did this. And they're like, I don't remember that at all. And it's like, that stands out so clearly in my memory.
Yes. And like the realization, even when you start to get older and you're like, oh God, parents are people.
They had a whole life before me.
Yeah.
And even with me still there, they still had their whole own life.
Yeah, like when you're so dependent, like your survival is dependent on this human not fucking up. And then they do, and you're like, you're ruining life.
Or I'm not the center of your life. What the hell is that?
Oh, yeah. You know, luckily mine, I don't know when that realization will come. Maybe I'll just make them the center of my life and solve that trauma. Give them a different one. But yeah, I always think about that. These are like complex things. Like, how do you navigate that? Also, like, I'm not gonna lie, woke world is like almost scarier. Because, like, how do I teach such complex things to a child? They were just things you did not have to worry about when we were younger.
Yeah, but at the same time, then it's just like couple of years ago are just hit with all these truths and you're like, whoa, my whole life has been a lie.
Yeah.
Of like not realizing what this country is really like, what the history of this country is really like, because we were taught such like a glossed over version. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a lot, you know? But those are like my main two questions for my adult self. I really struggled with the questions because
yeah, me too.
Yeah, you don't want to like define that person.
Yeah, so I'd ask older me, 1, what habits do you have now that your younger self didn't have that are beneficial with progressing in life?
Okay, that's a very good one.
Future me, can you answer now? Fuck.
Which ones should I focus on?
What do I need to start doing more of to like get to where I want to go? 2, how do you feel about yourself and your place in the world?
Ooh.
And 3, I have to know, what is your home like?
Just tell us a location so we like know.
What is the yard like? What is the house like? What quirky, cool things are going on in the neighborhood? I just want to know. Obviously, I can't know, but those are my questions for myself. But it took me a long time to figure out those questions. So,
yes.
because I was like, what would I ask?
It was hard, right? Well, and that's the thing. I'm like, I don't even know where she'll be, what she'll be doing, who she is.
I'm like, if you could answer these questions for me now, then I would know what I need to do.
Yes.
And then we had the optional one of what is a lesson or something you learned from the most recent book you've read. I don't know if you did that one.
I don't know from the most recent book that I read. Well, actually, the most recent book I read was this book that like reflects on womanhood.
Cool.
Yeah. Via Neanderthals. She like studies Neanderthals, but it goes back to like the Neanderthals' life to a present day life. And I think also, like, mine was more like, you don't need to be ashamed of, like, instinct-esque things. Especially, this just came up really recent in my life with one of my friends. Like, your sexual cravings and such. There's so much shame and taboo on things like that. And there just really doesn't need to be. They're animalistic in us. And I think a lot of us, like, kind of avoid that, like, basic human.
Yeah.
Like, we feel like it makes us, like, an animal, but that's, like, where we started. That's the roots. That's basic needs. Because there's a lot of Neanderthal sex that they, like, just do instinctually. Yeah, it's very interesting. She's also, the present day person's pregnant, so it's also probably why they focus a lot on it.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting book, just also, like, about womanhood reflecting over the years and eras.
Was it an easy read? Like a quick read? That you were like, I really love this and don't want to put it down kind of book?
Yeah, it's quick and it reads, like, really easy. It's not too heavy while also going over women.
Yeah. Speaking about that shame stuff, there is this girl that I follow on our Wellness Buds page. I'm pretty sure her handle is Kate on Shame. Yeah, that's her exact handle. Kate on Shame. And she just talks about a lot of that's not about Neanderthal specifically, but just like things that we feel shame about that we should not feel shame about because we're all human and everyone deals with shit. And yeah, if you don't follow that page, I would recommend it. She has her own podcast, which, to be honest, I haven't listened to, but I'm sure it would be very interesting. But just that the whole shame thing is like, we do feel so much shame, and it's like,
well, I feel like especially sexually, it's not even that people are, like, meaning to shame, but their own shame and embarrassment to be that way leads to them shaming someone else. Basically, okay, Mom, I know you listen to the podcast, and I am not ashamed of this, but I don't think you want to hear it. So it'd be, like, cool if you just turned it off. I'm in a long-distance relationship, so, you know, the way you get your rocks off is unconventional. I don't come home to a boo thing and just get down.
Right.
It is not that way. And, you know, you just gotta have phone sex. And I thought phone sex, I had never really had to have it before being long distance. And I was like, oh, this is going to be weird. A bottle of wine helped with the first time. I broke my barrier. I could do that at noon on a Tuesday now.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so, but I, like, said something and she was like, oh my God. And right now she's being celibate because she wants to be in a, like, relationship defined to have sex with someone, and that's great. But I was like, why are you so embarrassed? And I realized I eventually was like, you know, I don't think in past relationships I would have been as comfortable with phone sex, but I feel like now I'm, like, with this partner that is like, it's okay to try something and then be like, I never want to do that again, and have that respected. Right. And I think a lot of people think once they try something, they can't back out of it ever again.
But it's so important to have a partner who is so supportive, and it's like, okay, we can try this new thing, but just know that if I don't like it, I'm not going to do it again. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that one Megan line that she's like, but I still ain't doing nothing I don't want to do. Like, fuck yes. Yes. I will not do something I don't want to do. And I felt very, well, you know, I'm long distance right now too, most of the time, with Josh being only an hour and a half away, but still, it's like we don't see each other all the time. So we've been doing the virtual thing, which I told you about more privately, but I'll just say here, because no shame, that we have our toys that connect to each other. And we have the app that, so it's like we have these toys that, like, literally control each other. Like, his movements control my toy and vice versa. So it's really cool. And I, at first, you know, was very apprehensive. Like, do I want to do this? This is kind of weird. I've never been on a video like this. And like feeling secure in the video even, because it's like...
There is no good angle.
Well, with a phone too, I'm like, okay, so we tried doing it like with the laptop and the phone, with the app on it, and it's just like, there's so many things going on. It's just easier with the phone, but then with the phone, it's way harder to get the good angle. But, you know, he loves me for me and is just like happy that we're doing it at all, you know? So
exactly. But yeah, it was just it was interesting because she didn't mean to shame me, but she was like crawling out of her own skin thinking about it. And I was like, girl, this is how I survive.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. We have the intrinsic desire for that. Like, no shame. Okay, so I'll go on to my lesson or something I've learned from a recent book, which is very, like, sort of on brand with all of our prompts today. But the most recent book I read was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I don't want to give anything away because if you haven't read it, it is so good. It's definitely worth reading. It was a book that I was, like, looking forward to getting back to every night because it was just like, I just want to know what's happening next. And it goes through different narratives of like the main players in the book. So it's like, you know, you're getting through one person's perspective and then the whole next section is another person's perspective. So then you're like, but wait, what about that last person? Like, I'm still interested in this next person, but it's like, has you like really wanting to keep reading to like get the full story from everyone. But anyway, I'll just say that the biggest lesson in the book or like takeaway is acceptance all around. Accepting things as they are, becoming comfortable in your own skin. I would love to discuss more, but like I said, I don't want to give it away. You need to read it so we can talk about it more.
Yes, I will read it. That will be my next one.
It's so good. And man, I want to look it up because I'm like, I think I might have heard something about a film or series adaptation. I think I am going to look it up real quick just so I'm not spreading false information.
Also, full pause. I do need to go in like 3 minutes.
Okay, so I'll get to The Vanishing Half. Is it going to be a movie? I don't know, y'all. Maybe not. We have a time limit, so I gotta keep going. So, yeah, that's all for our prompts for this week. Product of the week. Pow! Okay, so my fuzzy slipper slides, they're super comfy. Never knew I needed this type of slipper until I dog sat for this Japanese couple who had many pairs by their door for guests and themselves. I think that's a cultural norm, but I can't really speak to it because I've only had that one experience. But anyway, I got my own version in pink while I was dog sitting because I wanted them to be at my house when I returned home. So absolutely adore them. I have a separate pair of slippers that are closed-toed, but then these open fuzzy slides are everything. I like having like options with my slippers. So I guess I'm a little bougie in that way. You know, who doesn't like comfy options? But yeah, they're also really long lasting because I've had them since 2019 and they're still going pretty strong. So I'll link that below if you're interested in snagging yourself a pair to feel luxe as fuck in your own home at all times. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to join our journal challenge, it is still not too late. Feel free to call or text our business line at 971-292-5565 or email us at wellnessbudspodcast@gmail.com or message us directly on socials. You can also contact us with those methods if you have any suggestions for future episodes, questions, or if you want to share anything about your own personal wellness journey. We look forward to hearing from you. So thankful for everyone who is listening. We appreciate your support. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review, donate, subscribe, share with a friend or family member, or share on your socials, or just continue to take the time to support us by listening. Thank you again, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.